Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Part 1, Chapter 5, Text 45. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca, atha kṣaṇaṁ lajjayeva, maunaṁ kṛtvātha niḥśvasan, dharma-rājo bravīn mātṛ, bhrātṛ-patnībhir anvitaḥ. Śrī Parīkṣit said, for a moment, Dharmarāja Yudhiṣṭhira remained silent, and then he sighed as if embarrassed. At last he spoke, followed in turn by his brothers, wife, and mother. Purport: hearing his own praise embarrassed Yudhiṣṭhira, and so it seemed. Close to the truth, however, is that he took this exaggerated praise to be false and thought that Narada was teasing him. In either case, Yudhiṣṭhira felt sufficiently moved to sigh audibly, even in front of his mother and younger brothers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasade Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So greetings from Govardhan. I'm wearing a chador, but the weather is actually getting really ideal. And when I can, most days, in the morning, I walk around the Govinda side of Govardhan Hill. Really wonderful. And I have a month left, and I'm already feeling pain, but it's a joyful pain because the pain is connected to love. Just like Radharani's so-called agony, or her anger, or her jealousy, or even her envy, it's born of love, which can be confusing because these forms that we see that are born of love are born of the opposite thing in the material world, which is the ego, which is connected with hate, actually. Even fruitive activities is connected with hate, because when there's desire, there's hate. That's really stated in the second verse of the Bhagavatam, showing the unique aspect of the Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavo tra nimatsarano satam. Dharma projita kaitavo paramo nimatsaranam satam. It's satam. What is a devotee? Near matsara. He doesn't have hate. And therefore he could read the Bhagavatam, which will dharma kaitava projita, which kicks out fruitive activities. So it's connecting fruitive activities subtly with hate, because it's the ego wants superiority. And when it wants superiority, it puts oneself in competition with other people. And it's very subtle. It's not this, Hitler hate, but it's still, it's core there. And therefore, those who are really devotees, people don't fear because they don't have that competitiveness. Dhira dhira janapriyo piyakaro nirmatsaro pujata. The six Goswamis are dear to the dhira adhira, to the sober, the not sober, to the gentle and ruffians, because they are um, dhira dhira janapriyo nirmatsaro no puja. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, so this part, we'll see that. And one of the symptoms of Paramahamsa, who Prabhupada said is free from the propensity to criticize others. That's a competitive impulse. One of the symptoms is they don't have envy. And not only they don't have envy, but on the opposite side, they don't have the desire to be the center or to be praised. And therefore they deflect praise. It doesn't fit in with their faith or objective. It has nothing to do with their objective. So here we see in our story, which you're all familiar with, Hanuman deflecting that praise and glorifying the Pandavas, whose relationship was more intimate with God, and therefore there was a more intimate manifestation of God, which is Krishna. It's one God, but when God reveals himself fully, that's Krishna. Akila Rasamrita, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes Krishna as Akila Rasamrita, Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. Wait, Akila Rasamrita. Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. Akila Rasamrita. He's the ocean. Akila Rasamrita, of the nectar of all relationships. He's fully manifest. So if Narada is looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, it's certainly honest to point them to someone who has in their relationship more of God's personality. And that's Krishna. And it's very significant that, I'm reading, it's very nice. There's a few people that I'm reading different sections of the CC with, and it's just beautiful. And just a core group of 2 or 3 and maybe some 5 come. It's not open for everyone. And they come to Govardhan, and I really more and more am enjoying my more and more enjoying my service in Govardhan. Just a sadhu, chanting Hare Krishna, walking around the hill, studying Shastra, being open for people. And I like the service that many people who know me, they like that there's a devotee who speaks Krishna-katha that they know, that they can come visit. Yeah, so very interesting study. We finished the second chapter of the Madhya Lila, which is, and it's very, very moving because you get devotion from these different levels. You get it from the mood of Radharani, which is expressed in verses, and the mood of Lord Chaitanya, who's appreciating those verses, and the depth of Krishna Das Kaviraj, who's explaining those verses, and the devotees you're reading with who are appreciating those verses. And very interesting, it says, by the Lord's, the Lord taught by, it's very moving. If you go to the level of Krishna's Kaviraj, we just read a verse. We just finished the second chapter today. And he's just amazed. He's only 1/3 finished, but he says, at least I've given a synopsis. The first and second chapters of the Madhya Lila are a synopsis of his activities. And then the second chapter is a summary of his ecstasy, which is his activities, because it describes his last 12 years. How does he describe? What are you going to describe in his last 12 years? He's in Nirjan Bhajang. His activities is his internal life. And it explained that his relishing of his ecstasy by relishing the expressions of love of Srimati Radharani is the process he taught his disciples, how to attain love of Godhead. It's the process. And therefore, by studying these verses and reading with others, we are engaging in that process of getting love of Godhead. But one thing that's very interesting, that's relevant to today, is when you get into, so Krishna's Kaviraj, what he's doing is actually amazing. It's amazing by what he's doing, and it's exponentially amazing by the difficulty. His descriptions indicate he's in his 90s because he says his memory's going, his hands are shaking, he's suffering old age, but it's described, we just read the verse today, that these ecstasies of Lord Chaitanya, these jewels of realization were given to Swarup Damodar, who gave them to Raghunath Das Goswami, who gave them to Krishna's Kaviraj. So he's holding these jewels, absolute jewels of realization of the highest expression of consciousness, which is the highest expression of love. And he's holding these jewels, and he's uniquely qualified to express them I gave a seminar. I'm going to give it again in Colombia, called The Mission of Sri Chaitanya and the Genius of Sanatana Goswami in Expressing It. And while we're studying this, we're astounded by the genius of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. But it's more than his genius. It's mercy. It's being an instrument for God who's using one's genius beyond one's genius. Because first you have to conceptualize them. And it's not just an intellectual activity, because it's prayojana tattva. And the truth of prayojana tattva is the experience of God fully. So to write this, he has to have this experience of what Lord Chaitanya is expressing and giving. Because that famous verse I'm quoting all the time, Samarpyatum unatoj rasam swabhakti swayam, he's giving the ujvala ras, this brilliant love, swabhakti swayam, what he himself is experiencing. He's giving. And what is Lord Chaitanya experiencing? It's Krishna experiencing his own form and ecstatic love. He's experiencing that from the perspective of his devotees. Swabhakti Siyam, and he's giving it to his devotees, and it's explained how he's giving it to his devotees. By two ways. The process is his ecstasies, which are experienced and revealed by the servants of Lord Chaitanya. And Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's finishing that second chapter, and he literally doesn't know if he can finish it. Finish the whole thing. He's just the beginning of the Madhya Lila. But one thing, and it's so clear, the consciousness one needs to understand, assimilate, and explain Krishna consciousness is the humility that comes from the respect and worship of all the Vaishnavas. It's so deep in his heart. That's why Prabhupada says Vaishnava is not an ordinary thing, because there's no envy. And therefore, the amount of respect that a Vaishnava has for everyone is so profound. What to speak of those devotees? And the fact is, God's mercy is everywhere for everyone. But it takes humility to experience it. And I've given this simple analogy I like, and I'm finding that analogies sometimes are the only way to explain concepts. The analogy of a child who's spoiled, it's not that the parents are not giving them everything. It's just they're not humble. They feel entitled, so they don't feel it is love. So even Krishnadas Kaviraj, who's so immensely qualified, I'm just amazed. I'm speechless. I can see why Prabhupada, if there was one book, he brought this book. Because the life of teaching of Sri Chaitanya, and it includes all tattva, and it includes all rasa, it includes the poetry of Rupa Goswami, but he's always putting himself in a humble position. And therefore, everything a Vaishnava does has to be begun by sincere prayer to exalt the object of our worship, and in that way experience the humility of exaltation. And now, this today, I gave class at 8, because I have a little apartment here, so devotees came to the apartment, and they came at japa. And then I gave class instead of walking around. And then a class again at 12:30. And we began the Sikshastakam prayers, which is the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maybe I'll teach that next. It's so beautiful. Lord Chaitanya is reflecting on his success, not in an egotistical way, but like Prabhupada, when he was in Calcutta, he was just astounded when he returned from America the first time successfully, and just questioning how I was the lucky one. He understood what he did, but his humility was, I was just an instrument for Krishna. Accomplishment in spiritual life doesn't make one proud, it makes one humble. Because you actually get to see Krishna acting through one. And one becomes an instrument. So the credit goes to Guru and Krishna legitimately. But still, Lord Chaitanya, by mercy of his Guru, he was looking back at the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, his whole life, and what he accomplished, both in terms of his external hetu, his Baharanga hetu, the external reason for his coming, why he came for others, which is to distribute Krishna consciousness, and his antaranga hetu, the internal reason for him coming, which is to relish it. And he's with Śrī Damodar, and this is really the last chapter, it's the end of his life. He's with Śrī Damodar, and he's also thinking, and Ramananda Roy, how was I the lucky one? And then he begins to meditate. He begins to think, it's the holy name, Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam. It's the holy name, it's the holy name. He just realizes it. And then he begins to glorify the holy name and give you a lot of faith in the holy name. And then in glorifying the holy name, the Shikshastakam manifests from his heart in a very spontaneous way, which codifies his mission, which is to elevate people to the highest consciousness by chanting the holy name and taking one through various stages. So it's very systematic, the Shikshastakam. It describes the different stages of devotion, which all manifest by the holy name. So now here in the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, we're also getting the Vivita Bhagavatam rasa. It's all rasa. So from different levels, we're experiencing these devotees' hearts. So now this is Maharaj Parīkṣit at the end of his life, telling his mother this story, which is a summary of the Bhagavatam. And again, as I made the point, the Bhagavatam, more than a story, is a message. And that message can be told in different stories, and it's still the Bhagavatam. So he's summarizing the whole thing Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta summarizing the whole thing in a slightly different story, but with exactly the same philosophical progression. And he's telling his mother, and he's looking at Dharmarāja Yudhiṣṭhira, who's been glorified so highly by Hanuman, and then Narada Muni. And then what is his reaction? What is his reaction? It's lajjayeva, embarrassed, maunaṁ, kṛtvātha, maintaining silence, niḥśvasan, sighing. He's not identifying for many reasons. One, if a devotee accomplishes anything, he actually sees Krishna using him. So he doesn't really feel he's the agent, the one who initiates the action. Sarvesya chaham hidisani vishto matasmatir ganam. I am situated in everyone's heart, and from me comes forgetfulness, remembrance, and knowledge. So the inspiration is coming from Krishna. And a devotee feels that so strongly. So even though if he's accomplished something and he's praised, he does not identify with that accomplishment. Impossible to identify with that accomplishment. Because if he actually has an accomplishment that's worthy of something, that's imbued with devotion, that makes some significant contribution to his lineage, he's just observing how Krishna is using him. Like, for example, if there's something that's carved that's very beautiful, there may be a very sharp knife, but how much is the sharpness of the knife credit for the artistic thing that is created? It's better than a dull knife, but the credit goes to the carver, the agent. Therefore, in that sense, we see prakriti kriya manani gunai karmani, the bewildered soul. He thinks he's the doer. Of course, there are 5 factors of action, and one is the endeavor. Give us that credit. We want to be Krishna's devotees. We want to serve. So Yudhiṣṭhira it doesn't hit a devotee in that way. And it's startling to us because we have ahankara, the conception of doership. So anything that's done, we take credit for. Whereas in a second, Krishna can take it away. He can take away our minds. He can take away our ability. We can become forgetful. So Yudhiṣṭhira, he becomes silent. He doesn't know how to handle this praise. No. May Bhaktin, I'm not a devotee. Vava dukkha sirodharya naiva vatmasu kripahare vicharya bhikṣaṇaṁ asmabhir jatu kapyavadharyate. Yudhiṣṭhira said, O crest jewel of brilliant speakers, Lord Hari has no mercy for us. We cannot remember any mercy he has shown us, even after we consider this for a long time. So, by calling Narada an eloquent speaker, Yudhiṣṭhira subtly accused him of distorting the truth. In Yudhiṣṭhira's opinion, proof that Krishna blessed him and his brothers with special favor cannot be found. So again, this is the deep consciousness of prema bhakti. Prema bhakti is described in, it's a complete absorption in God. It's a complete revelation of God. It's described in the Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam. Prema Um, the verse, it describes God is everywhere, just like, the material elements. It gives this image of God's immanence, actually, that one actually is experiencing. Like right now, when you have ego, you tend to see yourself as the subject, and somehow everything surrounding you is the object. But in prema, you become the subject. And what do you see? You see God. You see God everywhere. And you're a spark of consciousness. And with that firm realization, and you're seeing this, and it's having such an impact on your consciousness that to think that you're great or significant when you see the significant. Prabhupada's godbrother, Srila Dhanurdhara, I believe in this lecture he was giving, he was describing, I told this many times, when he attained bhava. This is not even prema. Bhava is lax, prema is dense. Lax means it's love of Godhead, but it's like the sun rays. Prema is like the sun. It's condensed. And therefore, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's described as Sandrandana Visheshatma. Sandra means like you can't put a pin through metal. The consciousness is so imbued. So how can they deny that they're great? Because their vision is great. That's why they can deny they're great. Their vision is great because they can see the great. And it's ecstatic. They're thrilled every moment. They're thrilled every moment. Everywhere. They're feeling the presence of God. Devotion is really happy small. And you imbue yourself in that consciousness. So he cannot accept. He cannot accept. I was going to Śrī Parīkṣit, excuse me, he was describing when he attained bhava, and he said, I was the subject and everything was the object. Then I became the object. And then he said very powerfully, and I was captured. Because in prema, a love, the agent for your activities is the cause of what causes or controls how you move is the desire of the object of your love. So he said, then I was captured. Prema, you're captured. You're completely surrendered to God. You see God. You're moving by the will of God. So it's a natural. And the other point is, these points are coming up again and again, and they're important. And even if they're repeated, because it's love, it's ecstatic. I'm experienced that in studying the CC, because every time we read it, we go back to the previous verses and review, and so many points are repeated, but they're not only relishable, but the Shastra is Chit Shakti. It's God's message in sound. It's very personal. So according to your consciousness, the same word can reveal more and more of God's glory, more and more of the meaning. Therefore, you can read something again and again and again and see things as newer and newer and newer. because it's God in the sound. And it's the nature of God to be expanding his revelation. Prakritanam jananim hi madrig apa ganekshaya Krishna bhaktau pravitishcha vishvasash cha Hare said eva. If ordinary materialists see the many calamities that have come upon us, their faith and their inclination to serve Krishna are likely to wither. So it's very, very significant. Because what do we see with this devotee? Not only does one praise, what he's concerned with is others. Someone has Krishna's mercy. His heart is soft. He's compassionate. He's concerned for others. He thinks of others besides himself. So Yudhiṣṭhira is just thinking, no, we didn't get any mercy because there were so many. And anyway, if ordinary materialists see how much we suffered, their faith and inclination to serve Krishna are likely to wither. And of course, this presents kind of a philosophical quandary for theistic people. I've discussed this, which is the best argument against God. If God is omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnibenevolent, all good, then if there is evil in the world, either God can't do anything about it, doesn't, and therefore he's not omnipotent, or he can do something, but he doesn't know about it, therefore he's not omniscient, or he knows about it and he can do something about it, knows about it, but he doesn't want it, and he's not good. So it's funny that Yudhiṣṭhira is worried about this, that people lose faith if they see how much he suffers. And I've written many, many things about this, about how to reconcile suffering with the world, suffering in the world with an all-good, omniscient, and omnipotent God. The main Christian argument is for free will. God's created with his free will. Prabhupada gave that argument. I liked it. Someone has said, if God is all these things, then why did we come here? And Prabhupada said, God did not create you as dead stone. Now you came here, don't blame God. Now, the arguments are very subtle, and I've given many, many, many arguments. But one argument or one thing that we can, one argument is that something bad can happen, or someone can do something bad to you, technically speaking, but he's not cruel if his intention is good. For example, the mother may take the child to the dentist. So the mother is causing the child pain, but it doesn't negate the goodness of the mom. So there's really also a conception of intention. Of course, that's also challenging with the Holocaust and so many things. But when you think of the person, and I'm sure everybody here is polarized on one side of the aisle or the other, So if you think of the political leader you hate most, and then think of all the stuff they did to screw up the world, and then think what it would take to make them humble and purify them, then you'll understand why God has makes some people suffer in that sense. But anyway, the main thing is the compassion of Yudhiṣṭhira. Jaiva Dharma says that the energy of love towards God is called prema, but when it's reflected to the living entity, it's called compassion. And if the purpose of our practice is to elevate our consciousness in love, you have to be compassionate to others, intelligently compassionate to others. Otherwise, the heart will close up. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said that when the Grihastha disciple was going on pilgrimage, he said, you have to give the beggars at least a coin, otherwise you're going to become hard-hearted. You know, I'm living fairly simple for like Western kind of standards. In one sense, I got a pretty nice place now, but there's not 24-hour electricity. There is, but not on the heater, not on the air conditioner. And, you know, sometimes the water runs out. It's a little bit, and sometimes noise and things like that. But come on, compared to the beggars, I'm living in a palace. So I have to be, when I go out, I try to give something. I try to give charity, help people. I try to help people. Jiva doi kṛṣaṇaṁ sarva dharma sar. Jiva doi kṛṣaṇaṁ sarva dharma sar. Nadiya gojume nityananda mahajan. Prabhu agai, Prabhu agai. Krishna mata, Krishna pita, Krishna dana pran. Diya gojume. Jiva doi kṛṣaṇaṁ Sarvadharma Sar, the essence of all religion, Jiva Doi, is the essence of all religion is to show compassion to living entities. Jiva Doi Krishna Nam, by giving them the holy name of Krishna. This is really the gift. This is really the gift. We're holding the greatest jewel in the holy name of Krishna. So, Etare vati kastum nas eka prana jivanam vinanam praninam yadvan minanam chavinajalam. This would surely cause us great distress. If we dedicated our life and breath only to him, we would suffer like embodied creatures without food, or like fish deprived of water. Ati kashtum. Kashtum means pain. Ati means extreme pain for us. Because we're dedicated in our life to serve him. And why does Krishna come? Paritvanaya sadhunam vanashayata duskritam. Yada hi dharma syak glanir bhavati bharata. Why does Krishna come? Why does he come? He comes for others. He comes for others. So if we cause people to lose faith, ati kashtam, that's the greatest pain. Because our breath, matchita, matkata, prana, bodhyantas parasparam. What is our prana? Matchita, our consciousness. Matkata, our goal. Matchita, matkata, prana, our very life. Bodhiyantas parasparam is devotion. That's our very life. So how much ati kṣaṇaṁ, how much we are pained if we affect others' faith. It's so much pain. So he's saying, we're not objects of Krishna's mercy. That's okay. We don't mind that. But because we've suffered calamities and calamities again and again, this will challenge people's faith. And therefore, Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, which brings great power and great opulence, simply for the faith of others. Just like Lord Chaitanya in the verse of pure devotional service, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dinavritam, that the characteristic of bhakti is to be without any motive, Anyabhilashita, and jnana karma, and not covered by karma and jnana. So it means you can participate in karma, you can participate in jnana, but don't get identified with. And the example is, when Lord Chaitanya's father died, he did the pinda, the ritualistic ceremonies in Gaya. But Devarshi Bhutanam Ninam. But devotee doesn't have obligation. At that level, he certainly doesn't have obligation. Before bhava, we have obligation. If not for our own consciousness, we have obligation. Even if it's not just for our conscience, but even if it's just for our conscience, neglecting loved ones because they're not devotees or whatever it is. Before bhava, that will create some psychological disturbance if we don't help them. But the level of this, it's our duty. But for Lord Chaitanya, he didn't have that duty. Anyway, I'm trying to find that part. He didn't have something, but why did he do it? For the same reason that Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira is stating here. Because their faith to serve Krishna would wither. If they saw Lord Chaitanya neglected his father's pinda, his ceremony, the duty of his son, putra. That's why son is called putra, because they perform these rituals. The Shraddha ceremony, they perform the Shraddha ceremony. And therefore, they putra, like mantra, they deliver the father from put, or the relative, the ancestors from hell. So how can you not do it for your parents? Because it'll save them from hell. And therefore, it's so important to have offspring in that regard, who can do these rituals properly. But Lord Chaitanya didn't do it, but he did anyway. Why? Because he was concerned with the faith of the people. How are we doing here on time today? Okay. We can end. It's also the evening here. So generally I get a little tired, but let's see. Haribol Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jamuna Jaya, you want to start saying something? Are you here? Yeah. Jamuna Jaya.
Yeah, I'm here, Maharaj. My computer's a little slow this morning. Thank you for
Okay.
class, Maharaj. There's so many great points, but I love what you said. Their vision is great because they see the great was such a wonderful thing. And it's interesting to see the dichotomy of, Dhritarashtra, who is morally and physically blind, not seeing, and then this paradigm of like being able to see God, being able to see the great, and that's actually what makes our vision great. So I really, really love the way you put that
I thought
today.
when I said that, that was kind of catchy.
Yeah, that's button worthy, Mirage.
Yeah, I'd say it was catchy, but it's and yeah, and you become great because you become great when you have love. And you can only have love when you acknowledge that when you're humble. Proud man, like if even like a mafioso, if he wants to love his mother, he can't like boss his mother around. He has to be, very humble before his mother. He has to take a subordinate position. I saw that I used to stay in Delhi in this one house of it was like the Revels, but they were Sindhis. And they had a big house in Delhi. And I used to stay there a lot. And the mother had one floor, which was the common floor. And she was a very simple lady. She walked around with a cloth on her shoulders so she can always dust things.
Mm.
And her sons were very powerful. I mean, the eldest son was a very, very powerful person, very pious. And the next eldest son, who is a friend of mine, was anyway a very elevated soul, very competent guy. But they were humble before their mother.
Mm.
They may also, they may advise her because she's a simple lady and take her to the hospital. But if they weren't humble in relationship with her, and it's not like it's like forced out of love because they loved their mother, they put themselves under her authority.
Mm.
So it's just, yeah. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you
I
so
know.
much for the lecture. I am very much impressed with your description of how devotees are captured by the Lord when they have prema bhakti. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I was. He said I was captured, and you get the why you captured. When someone's in love, they're guided by the desire of their beloved, and not in a bad way. They become a slave to their desires. If the love is really intense, like a mother really loves her child, the more she loves the child, the more she's a slave to the child's desires. Not that she's under the authority of the child, but to his needs because he's young. So it's a fact that that's how it works. Okay. Anybody else like to say hello today?
Hey, Krishna Gamaraj, it's Lal Govinda.
And Braja, thank you for class.
Wow, good. See you soon.
Yeah, can't
looking
wait.
forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I enjoy going back, but I really feel that in the future, the near future, my service is more here.
Hmm.
I'm thinking just come back twice a year, my Vyas Puja, and in April, May, June, because and come back later in April because my service is here. People are coming,
Mm.
it's good. Okay, Haribo.
Very well.
Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, Tota, Haribo.
Haribo.
Hi. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Gail here. I was
Okay.
just
Yeah. go ahead.
when you were talking about, I don't know, a screwdriver or something, when taking
Yeah.
credit for, I was thinking, what if the paintbrush took credit of, I don't know, Picasso's or
Right.
Monet's painting.
That's a better. You came up with a better example. I'll use it next time.
Yeah, I mean, this analogy, I've heard similar analogy before, but sometimes the same things just strikes you more.
Right.
Different times.
I like that with it, but it may be the artist may need a particular type of paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
So Krishna may need a particular type of intellect, a particular type of mood.
I'm not parking.
Work through him. So it's not that there's no credit. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Gail. Have you been in touch with Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, not for the past couple of weeks, but yeah, we've been in a lot of communication, hours and hours.
She's so sweet, isn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten caught up on each other's families over the past 20 years. A lot of pictures.
Okay. Now, she doesn't have much longer, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you very much for the class.
Nice to see you both. Thank you so much for
Thank you
always
very
coming,
much.
hearing, and allowing me to be in your country.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. It's Surya Radhika here.
Radhika, Haribo. Jai.
Okay. Thank you.
Siddheshri is going to try to come to Vancouver. You know that?
Well, I heard about it a few months ago. She was talking with my mom about Vancouver, but I don't know.
She's very serious about it.
Okay, nice.
So then maybe there'll be a little community there, and then I can come and you can cook for me there.
Yeah, wow, that would be amazing.
I don't know where you'll get that Iranian rice, but
yeah, we can get everything Iranian here. It has Persian.
yeah, actually, I heard there's a very big Iranian community there.
Yes.
Isn't there?
Yes, there is, and I was trying to find a way to somehow connect with them so that I can preach in Farsi and things. But let's see. That's my hope. But let's see.
How many families are there?
I don't know the exact number, but there is a big community of Iranians here.
And probably they're quite affluent.
Yeah, it's sometimes when I get in them, there's so much different in mindset, but maybe some way.
Well, everywhere is like that, but still you find the people that have the same mindset. Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. I looked at the list. I see everybody that's there. So thank you all for coming. I read every name. Vanchakalpa Turubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam